pages.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Watercooler, episode number 225. Today's topic is displaying images in WordPress. Let's go around the very large room real quick and get everyone introduced. Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Sarah Weefald. I'm the project manager at Zeek Interactive, and I also do the design meetup for the OC WordPress meetup group assortment, except we won't have a meeting on Monday. Sorry, guys.
No problem, no problem. How about you, Say? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, my name's Say. You can tag me on Twitter at SayReadMedia. That's all I have right now.
All right. All those things. What about you, Steve?
I am Steve Zengen. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Awesome. Josh, we're doing intros. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Joshua Bridge from joshuabridge.com, and we just turned ourselves into a web studio because we're in a little studio out in the mountains, and we've got our little water cooler right here for
nice. Very good, dude. Very good. I love when we do water cooler-y type stuff. We even got water coolers right here. See? Water cooler. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter, and my blog is jasontucker.blog. All right, let's talk a little bit about images and displaying them on the WordPress.
You can do that?
You can.
What's
you can.
an image, Steve?
That's a thing? According to
What's an image?
I feel like we should have used like a Public Image Limited song as like our theme here.
Public
Right.
image.
Public Image.
I'm going to pretend I totally got that reference.
Yeah, you're young.
That was John Lydon's band after the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, okay.
I grew up in the mountains. I got nothing for you.
I'm younger than you.
Josh is in the mountains.
Hey.
So,
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, so let's get this thing started.
So the way that I was explaining this on a couple of the different social media posts I was doing before the show is that, you know, there's a bunch of ways to display images on a WordPress site. You can do just a normal stick an image on your website as a blog post image. You can do them as a gallery. You can do them as kind of a modal or a lightbox. You have like those types of ways of going about it, and then just putting those images into your theme and using them that way. So let's kind of start with putting those images into blog posts and how you can go about that. You know, I've seen sites that I've inherited that they'll take an image, they'll put it into the blog post, and then they'll set it as the full size image, and it's like some ridiculous, it might as well be in raw file format that's on the post, but it's been shrunk down to 100 by 100, so it's maximizing you know, that area of the post, and you're wondering why your website takes forever to load up.
So you've covered a lot of things in one question. So let's break that
Okay, bye,
down.
guys.
Yeah, let's break that down.
Well, that's why I did that.
Before we talk about the front end display of images, let's talk about management of images in the back end of WordPress, right? So just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Which is kind of the general rule of the web. And so when we set up a site for a client, we always educate the client as to what is an optimal size, aspect ratio, and file size for the images that are going to go in the various spots on their pages, right? And so we discuss, you know, a certain size, pixel-wise, and a certain file size, right? Because without that, if you just leave, you know, WordPress as is without any direction, somebody's going to take an image off of their, you know, Nikon camera, right? Download it off of their SD card and just upload it to their WordPress site, right? A raw image of, you know, 5 megabytes, right? And that's the situation that Jason's describing. If you do that and just go for it and let, you know, and then size it inside the post or let WordPress size it, you know, you're eating up all your bandwidth, right? So
Definitely.
there are plugins that we've mentioned in the past, right, on this show to help manage that, right? So that the images are optimal and that you are set for not hogging up all your bandwidth. And one of them, I don't personally have any recent experience with these, but I know Smush It does this. What was the other one, Sarah? Imagify? Is that a thing?
Yes.
That sounds right. Yeah.
It's
Imagify.
right. It is correct.
There's a whole bunch of plugins that do this. That'll just take these images and shrink them down to an optimal size.
Automatically is the key point there.
So
and
that you are.
If George were here, he would also say Photon from Jetpack.
Thank you, Photon. So
wait, but Photon doesn't resize the images. It stores them off-site, right? It's not creating.
It optimizes the image as well, so it takes
Does
out all
it
of
optimize
the.
them? Oh.
It's all the extra metadata that doesn't need.
And so this is just, you know, this is.
Can we also? I don't mean to interrupt. Nope. Can we also talk about content display networks and what it means? Once your images are on the media file and you've got them resized through Smush It or through whatever, how are you actually going to manage it across the entire web? In other words, you've got it on your local file. Great, that's wonderful. Now we're pulling things down. If we could mention at some point content display networks. So I think that's a big part of it.
You just asked and should answer
your
question.
Go right ahead. I'm waiting for you to answer.
Hey, I'm new to the show. I'm not trying to.
Good question, Josh.
So what Josh is describing is a CDN, which is a content delivery network, right? And so one of our good friends here on the show runs a CDN called MaxCDN. Is a good one. There's plenty of good ones out there, but as far as speed of delivery, a CDN is always a good idea, especially for images.
All I was saying is that depending on the images that you're displaying, there's a process where it's like stage 1, let's get them to the media file. Stage 2, let's smush them, let's optimize them. Even, and I've never used this successfully. I wanted to know if any of you guys have used the crop feature in WordPress. I think it came out 6 years ago. I've never been able to get it to work properly.
I use it all the time,
and
it works way better now than it used to. It has been improved drastically.
Yeah, our clients use it all the time.
That's why I love the show. Yeah, I love that you guys tell me when things are actually working now. So
it's working now.
I've never had a problem with the cropping tool.
It used to be wacky. Well, first of all, the UI is a little wacky because when you get in there, you have to you don't hit the crop button until everyone has a little bit of a weird. You crop, then you push the button. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a UI break there. But there used to be a thing where you would try to just edit the thumbnail and crop it, and it would never actually save, no matter what install. Yeah, that was about a year or two ago even. It was doing that. I'm not sure which update fixed that, but I use it often for clients. They have that question continually.
So what is your process after you've cropped it? Then what's your next thing to do?
Well, hang on one second. Let's talk about cropping for a second. Since this is Tangent Show, cropping, the way cropping works is, and sometimes it may or may not work, and again, I haven't had this issue, but the way cropping works is if you crop an image, WordPress will actually create another instance of that image with a new name that is the cropped version of that image, and it does that because it retains the original image, so that if you ever want to undo the cropping, you can go back, right? And a new crop will create a new image, and then back and forth. There's one issue I can think of that's sort of related to size that we're talking about here, is that if you upload your image off of an SD card, you've got your 5 meg image, and you crop, and now it's the right size, that 5 meg image is still sitting on your server taking up space, right? So just because you've cropped and resized and done everything doesn't mean you're not eating up your own server space.
Yeah, the images really need to be done ahead of time. That is the best, or in the auto process of uploading with those plugins. I agree. Once it's on the server, in terms of naming the image, this isn't about SEO, but I had this conversation yesterday with a client who's, I'm like, look at all your images are image0452.jpg, So we're having that conversation, and I'm like, no, you actually have to name them on your hard drive before you upload them. There are plugins that will allow you to rename the file from the WP admin. I don't recommend doing that. I think that's probably a terrible idea, but it does work. I would not turn that loose with a client, however. Mm-hmm. But all the image processing, I always really encourage people to do all of their image processing ahead of time, even if the crop tool works.
Yeah, I use a app on the Mac called ImageOptim. And you just take all your images that are in a folder, you drag it into the thing, and it optimizes the images, and you're done, ready to go.
Oh, I like doing it one by one in Photoshop. That's really efficient.
I like TinyPNG still. It's one of my favorites. Especially because most of my clients don't have any sort of software or capability to process what that even means. So they having a
what is that? That tool, I'm sorry to interrupt. What is that tool, Jason?
Yeah, it's ImageOptim.
ImageOptim. Sorry, go ahead, say.
I was just gonna say I recommend a lot TinyPNG. It's an easy, you can just go there, download it, upload it. That's a good choice for a lot of kind of low quantity processing for clients who are doing just a blog post every couple days or something like that. That's a good option. That's not too intense.
That's a SaaS product, right? You do that right in the browser.
No, yeah. It's free. It's a free browser link thing, Dealy Bopper. I don't know what happens to the images that you upload. I think about that every time I put one on there. I'm like, is this some repository in China?
They go straight to Reddit. You're okay. Don't even worry about it. They turn into memes.
Don't put your nudes there.
Don't put your nudes there. Maybe just some stock photos. You'll be.
But just as a point of order, when Steve says things like SaaS, he means SaaS, not SaaS, which is software as a service, not a CSS thinger.
SaaS.
And not a SaaS-y, which is, an attitude and a way of life. I did want to point out one of the things we were talking about in terms of cropping, and someone mentioned it in our side chat. There's also often the issue of the image is fine and you want that size, but the way that it is being displayed, whether that's because of the theme or whatnot, is like, for example, you'll get this shot versus a headshot of someone. So there's a new crop of plugins out there that help you align images. I have used most of them and have not had great success. Literally over the past month, I've been trying to experiment with some of these. One of them is called My Eyes Are Up Here.
Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it clean, people. Right up here, right here.
There's a couple others that we'll drop into the show notes that work that seem like they would work, but have some implementation issues, so they're not right out of the box.
All right, so we've talked for half the show about the prepping of images, right? Can we talk about displaying the images on the front end?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this during your meetup, Steve. When we were discussing how you can actually take those images and use like use a Lightbox or something like that to do it. And there's plenty of different Lightbox plugins that are out there. And what a Lightbox does is you click on the image and then JavaScript essentially takes over and says, oh, you want me to make a box for you to show up on the screen? And it'll display this nice little box that's as height and width optimized as it can be to display that image. So as long as you're putting in an image that's that's tall enough and wide enough to display on the page, it should look just fine. So typically it uses like the full image or the large image to display it.
Yeah, and one of the plugins that we learned about at the meetup the other night is from one of our good friends, Ryan Sullivan, which is called WP Featherlight. And the reason it was talked about at the meetup was because it is the most lightweight, or one of the most lightweight of those plugins that are out there. So the plugins that Jason is describing can be heavy on the JavaScript side. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm on your note just now. I'm also a fan of Simple Lightbox, which I haven't used Featherlight, but Simple Lightbox has kind of been my go-to. It's just that. It's just a Lightbox. What I wanted to say about what Jason was describing is how I describe to my clients what a Lightbox is, since they're just like, what? Is that how Facebook, when you click an image, it darkens the screen and pops something up in the center. I think Facebook is a great example for that, since everyone pretty much is on the book of faces.
Yeah, and being able to, if you have multiple images in there, you can actually switch between them by pushing the left and right arrows, depending on if you have more than one image in a group that you can kind of flip through.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say, Josh?
Oh, I was just gonna say, working so much, I feel like 80% of the work I do is mobile now. And the reason I like Lightbox is it works on mobile. It's a JavaScript. So just how you display the images on mobile is very, very different than how you display the images on bigger screens, such as computers and large screen TVs.
That's absolutely true. But let's be clear that not all plugins are created equally, not all technologies created equally, and especially not all Lightboxes are created equally. So if you are going to implement a Lightbox, you want to find one that is mobile responsive.
Which ones do you guys like mobile responsive? I'm curious.
Well, the one Say was talking about, Simple Lightbox, actually is a mobile responsive one that just works right out of the Lightbox. if you will.
Oh, see what Jason did there?
I see what he did there. There are also, I've noticed a lot of themes just have like kind of built-in Lightbox features. That's been something I've been noticing a lot. So
isn't that really what a theme is? It's just a bunch of light boxes.
And WordPress actually has a Lightbox built into core called Thickbox. It's been there for years. It's dependable. It works. And so if you are a developer-y type that's listening in, you can tap into Thickbox very easily. So just look, I don't know who names their technologies, but Thickbox is a good dependable Lightbox.
I forgot that maybe the sexual innuendo on this show right here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Josh.
No idea what you're talking about.
Steve, if you're having any problems with the Thickbox, there's also Auto Thickbox that will use Thickbox that's built into WordPress to actually go and automatically make it be used.
And I also think there's a pill for that.
It makes it work. Makes your Thickbox.
Who invited the awkward turtle on the show today?
Who invited Steve? Who was it?
Oh man. One of the things the other things that we talked about, we discussed at the meetup was carousels. We talked about slideshows and carousels. I'm personally not a fan, but do we want to talk about carousels on this program?
Yeah.
I prefer carousels to sliders, just for the record, because it's so much more of like a dynamic experience. I think carousels can be the one thing that are that everyone is in love with that slider thing still. I literally had a conversation about it this morning. But I think carousels are a better replacement for that because you're really seeing more content
And so what's the difference in your mind between a carousel and a slider?
I would say that a carousel has multiple elements that you can kind of pan through versus a slider, which is one shot and then you go to the next shot. So
a carousel has the thumbnails on the bottom. Is that the difference? The differentiator?
So if you picture, for example, a carousel, like a little horse one,
the horses,
horsies, you got a little horsies, and as you're looking at the carousel, you see different horses come by. It's not just one horse.
Wow, check that out.
That made absolutely no sense.
You don't take your children to the fair enough.
I do.
Or the mall, or
I'm very familiar with
wherever there are carousels.
The concept of a carousel. All right, so what I'm talking about is when what Say just said, I'm talking about a slider. Here's the problem with a slider, and the analytics support this is nobody's going to see slide 3, right? They may see slide 2. They're definitely going to see slide 1, maybe slide 2. They're not going to see slide 3. They're definitely not seeing slide 4 and 5. And if you have slides 6 through 10, forget it. It's just not going to happen.
You wasted your time designing those elements.
You did, right?
You did.
So sliders, and again, the data is there to prove this. Sliders don't typically work.
Yeah.
So Steve, it's linear versus nonlinear. Carousel is nonlinear where it loops around. Slider starts at 1 and goes to 8.
There's a definition I can understand.
I thought my horse definition was amazing.
It was amazing. I'm not disputing that.
Well, let's say if you don't want to do a slider, but you still want to display a whole bunch of images, there's 2 ways that I've seen to do it. One is using the tiled images thing that's built in the Jetpack, so you can just, check a little box and you're good to go.
Yep.
The other way is to do, there's a jQuery Masonry Image Gallery that will just display all of the images all in one shot.
And so now what we're talking about is a gallery, right? Where you have a whole bunch of thumbnails on the screen and you click it and it opens up a full version of that image. To me, that's a gallery, and that's a good use of time.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that the gallery thing is built into WordPress. So if you want to use the built-in one, those 2 plugins I just talked about, or rather a plugin and the module for Jetpack will do exactly that. So you just select a whole bunch of images, put them in a gallery, name the gallery, and then you place the gallery into that blog post, and then you're good to go.
I got to tell you, that tiled gallery thing in Jetpack is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. It's simple. The difference, though, between something like the inherent gallery on a post that, for example, Jetpack uses, where you're making the gallery per post, that is a really different thing than creating the gallery in a plugin like, for example, Envira, or one of those, where you're editing the galleries basically as their own kind of custom post type, and then you insert that gallery as short code into the plugin. So I think there's a real difference between those. One is much more in the post. The other one is the gallery is its own thing that is being placed within the page element. And I think there's not that one is better than the other, but I think if you're a client with a lot of images who's going to have a lot of galleries, portfolio things, that type of stuff, using a plugin like Envira is a better choice than the in-house gallery within the posts, because of the way that they're editable and titleable, that type of thing.
I don't think that's a word.
It's a word now. I made it.
It is. It is. I want to mention something that's actually I see little used inside of WordPress. Is every image that you put into the media library is a post, right? It becomes a post by itself, and you can have a template page. You can have comments on that image. So just because you don't have to just have a pop-up image that's just the image in an overlay. You can actually have each image be its own separate post.
I think that would actually be really cool to see more development with. The attachment page has been there forever, and it's this neglected redheaded stepchild over there that everyone just doesn't show and no follows and doesn't put the description in, and the pages all look really like theme developers like never think about the attachment page for some reason.
They
like,
always look weird.
They always have all the metadata on them.
What's that, Sarah?
I just always hated them.
Why?
So
Right,
I always
'cause they're
avoided
ugly.
using them.
It's mostly, I think, though, because theme developers are not styling those page templates, and
Right,
so they
when I
just end up being crappy.
Well,
Right.
then Yoast has a button that says click here to make it so that if somebody goes to one of those attachment pages, take them to a post that relates to that particular, image.
Right, that's avoiding them altogether.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel
Well,
like
how many different types of images are there? Like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just going to
What were you
say that one of the things that I hear a lot from clients is one of the big sort of design trends is to have these big, beautiful, full width, hero sized images all over your website. But then the challenge becomes, how do you size images to look good in that spot, but then also not, for example, bring down your entire website with the size that needs to be loaded there.
And how does that translate into mobile? Because the crop is never the same. It doesn't ever crop properly, the mobile versus the full width. You got like a little picture over here. You're like, here,
Well,
in the corner.
It depends, because if it's just, if it's just going the full width of the screen and you're just showing the whole thing, then it's fine. But if it's covering the whole screen, then yeah, the crop gets a little weird.
Jason, what's the technology or what's the new way of actually having image tags where it's got like all the different devices in the image tag, and it actually loads the proper one for desktop and the other one for mobile? I can't, the name of that process is escaping me right now, but there are solutions for that out there.
Yeah, that was like in what, for RIDG or something like that. I can't remember.
I don't know. Maybe
now.
this is a topic for next week's show.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember there was a plugin that was proposed to be added into a particular version of WordPress, which what we have now. But it's the one that I put in the show notes here, so we can explore that a little further. Maybe that might be a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, Jason, have you done a show on responsive design? Have I missed that? Just
Probably when it first started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done a few.
Yeah,
But-
we've only been doing the show since the dawn of time.
Right.
I heard you guys have been on for what?
Thank you. I did actually. Jacob for the win. Source set is what we're talking about.
Yeah, source set.
Actually, Jacob and Slack for the win.
Jacob.
But I mean, I don't think we've really answered how you make those full bleed photos look good on a 27-inch monitor as well as your laptop without having to load in a 3 megabyte image. So does anyone have any tips for that?
Do you? Because I want some. My problems all stem less from the developer end and more from I discourage clients, unless they're a restaurant or some sort of food thing, from using those because they don't have images that work to, it's like if you're a consultant, it's like this giant picture of shaking hands or like what the, stock photography everywhere.
Yeah.
But,
so let's just presuppose that you've got the photography to back it up.
yeah.
So one of the things, especially when you're editing all of the images on your own, figure out what the image ratio that you're going for is going to be. And then a tip that I picked up at one of our OC WordPress meetups was when you're in Photoshop, you get the image the way you like it. And then when you export for web, set the quality for the JPEG down to 0 and then blow up the width by 200%. And then when it shrinks back down to 100%, it looks super crisp, but you've shrunk the size of the image down enormously.
Whoa.
Oh, we're all like, what?
Wow,
So
like
Zeke needs to write a blog post
I was gonna say,
to
like-
explain all that, because that was rad.
like actual information happens over at that design meetup.
Don't give her an opening right now. That's really great.
We got to do a whole show on responsive design because I think this is a really big hot topic.
I think so too.
Responsive design, you think that's going to be a thing? I don't know. I think it's just one of those trendy things. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we're talking less about responsive design right now and more how do you, in the production environment for your graphical elements, how do you make that so that you don't blow up your site?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a super valid concern that look at the default theme right now, 2017. Bam, big image. You can really, not even just from a loading perspective, but from a sizing perspective, that could really look crappy if you have a crappy image there. I think the image ratio thing is something that people really don't understand.
I actually think the theme should be renamed to Bam, Big Image.
But even in those full screen thingers, which I've tried, if you do the trick with the, setting the thing to 0 and then expanding the width by 200%, it ends up looking super crisp and clean.
That's amazing. Do you have any tips on image ratio stuff? Anyone in terms of like, because full width is also, responsive full width is also this way, not just this way.
4:3.
Or just go 4:3 always.
I don't know.
Well, and it depends on what you're going for. So if it's just like a full width sort of like strip across the top and you want it to be sort of cinematic looking, you can use the cinema aspect ratio, which
16
is
by 9.
16 by 9.
Sorry.
And then your average.
I thought I was on Jeopardy for a second.
Yeah.
You got really excited. He had an answer to a design question. That was pretty awesome.
and then your average photo is probably going to be 3x4, 4x3. One of the two.
Squarespace.
What is Squarespace?
I think Josh is just yelling out things now. That come
I think Josh wants the Squarespace pre-roll to happen. That's why he said that.
No, I'm just saying.
Avocado.
My whole life is just horizontal or square. That's my whole life. Is it square or is it horizontal? That's
kangaroo.
Folks,
I don't know much
about
about public images.
It's 11:30. We're all done for the day. I want to say thank you very much for all of you for being on the show, hanging out with me, and being able to talk about all sorts of fun stuff regarding images and displaying images. I think next week we are going to be talking about preparing images for your WordPress site. We're going to go around and do that. So make sure you go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com. Click on the link to subscribe. If you like this particular content, hit the little thumbs up button. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoy this content a whole bunch, hit the subscribe button. One last thing before you click off and leave is that we're asking for your opinions about our show. So make sure you go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com/opinion and you can leave us your opinion. We appreciate that.
Asking for that.
Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.